Industry. What is an industry? Industry is the activity of businesses, customers, and government that operates isolated from others. Example, the music industry or craft beer industry. You may have heard it many times, just put the blank industry, and that's probably the industry that you're looking to pursue your business opportunity in. The question is, how would you describe your industry? So remember, it is all the businesses, all the customers, and the government that's operating that industry. So you can choose to describe how wide your industry is. So for example, you might say the American craft brew industry, and that would include all the craft brew makers. It would include the types of customers that drink beer in this industry. You would talk about suppliers that supply the barley and hops and all that. To the brewers, maybe you talk about the distributors, and then you would talk about the regulations and rules that these companies and customers have to follow in order to enjoy the craft brew industry. You could expand that craft brew industry to be a worldwide craft brew industry, and then you would talk about all the major players and it would be expanded. So there is a range of how wide you want to make it. But generally, if you are an American business and you're operating it, it's on a nationwide scale. So it's usually larger than the local competitors that you might be competing with if you were a craft brewer. Okay, so the local is usually in your local area that you would compete with, but the industry would encompass everyone in a broader region. So NICS is important to understand, and that's an acronym, and it stands for the North American Industry Classification System, and it's what the government uses to track industry trends. And they classify this number, and it puts different types of industries into different numbers in order to collect, analyze, and publish statistical data related to the U.S. economy. They use it for the government to support different industries or just to analyze how they're doing. So it's important to understand what this industry code is. If you can find this information, a lot of research and reporting is done, and you can look it up by this NICS number. I believe a simpler way to find out information for your industry is to do an internet search using blank industry association. And what you would want to find is an industry association for your business that is typically a nonprofit organization filled with members, and they could be the suppliers, they could be the distributors, they could be the customers that make up this member association where they pay dues to join, and they provide services, and one of the services is market research. So for example, if I typed into Google craft beer industry association, if I can spell it right, you might come up with a number of them. So remember, Google ads are usually the first. These are people that are paying you to try to click on their website. Typically, I like to look at the ones that are underneath the sponsored ad, and this is probably the most organic search engine optimized site that will answer my question. And it looks like here there is a brewersassociation.org. .org is a good signal that it might be a nonprofit organization that's not really trying to sell you something, but it actually works to support the industry. So I'm looking here, and the thing that I want to ask when I'm looking at the industry association is, if I am a small entrepreneur and I'm looking to find out market research or start in this industry, what does this organization do for me? Oftentimes they have an about page, and then oftentimes they have some type of resource site. So if I'm looking here and I look at, okay, there's education, there's programs, there's government affairs, and the new brewer. So who are we? So okay, so they have some, I'm a new brewer, craft brew. All right, so that looks like they have newsletters. They've got, I can log in, I can get a free issue. It looks like I have to pay for it, right? So there's a lot of member exclusive. Some sites for industry association will give you free stuff. some you will have to pay for. So this is an expense, and it goes back to the issue of if you're doing market research, are you going to use secondary information or primary? So a lot of the information you could do yourself, but this is a good source for secondary information that's already been done and is usually relevant to the industry. So oftentimes making the investment of paying for a membership to this industry association is a helpful way for you to get it for a low cost. So you can click on the resources section of the industry association. You can see, okay, it's got information on how we produce things, what are the ingredients, what is brewer supplies, how do we handle quality at our brewing. There's also a business model, which is interesting because we had studied that in our previous module. It talks about the different types of business models you can create in order to, make a profitable business out of it. So they also have sales and marketing, laws and regulations. So guess what? This is a great source for us. All right, so if I'm convinced that they do have a lot of information, I might want to click on Become a Member and see how much it costs. They typically have different membership types, and new members are usually the cheapest. It sounds like if you're a brewery in planning, you're not quite there yet. It's $195 for the year. So that might be a good investment for you to do because it'll save you a lot of time in the planning process. So remember, you can spend your money in time or you can spend your money in actual dollars. This might save you a lot of money in time by spending that $195. So it looks like they have individuals is a little bit cheaper, right? It's for students. It's only $20 cheaper. So usually most industry associations have a lower cost for students. So if you are a student and you really want to join, it's good. It's also a good way to get a job. So if you attend the events, oftentimes there's an events. So you can look at what the events are. And they might have, I'm looking, are there events? So they might have events where you can go and attend conferences and you can network and you can end up finding a job and work in that industry for a while before you become an entrepreneur in it. So those are good activities. So that's what I would suggest you do as a good way to start your market research, because oftentimes these industry associations websites have resources available for you. But if you are able to get your NICS number or join an industry, you can find more information. Oftentimes, if you know the NICS code, you can enter that NICS code as a blank into a Google or internet search, and you type in your number and you say industry research data, you can find more information. Just remember, when you're searching on the information on the internet, you want to be looking for good quality information. So you want to find things that are relevant and from a reputable source. So some of the questions you might ask yourself is, what are the expected annual sales for this type of business? How many customers purchase in this industry? How many businesses compete? What do businesses that operate in this industry, what does profitability look like? How much does it cost to run? What are the projected trends in the industry? So if there's more and more customers asking for this product or service, new businesses that enter the market would have a good chance of succeeding, right? If customers are not looking to continue buying in this industry, there might be businesses buying each other, and the industry might be shrinking. So there are strategies of how you're going to compete in a marketplace or industry based on this industry data. You just want to find out what the current climate looks for this type of industry. Next up is the market.